All right, hey everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on unlocking speed and flexibility with other transactions. Whether you're brand new in government contracting or you've been pursuing opportunities for years, understanding other transactions and other non-traditional acquisition pathways can be a game changer for your government contracting pursuits. Today's not going to be a legal or a policy deep dive. It's really just intended to give you an overview of other transactions and provide you some real-world actionable insights to take away. Now, I'm encouraging everybody who's on this presentation or who's seeing this to reach out with any questions. I'm more than happy to provide resources, answer questions, and provide any support that you might need along your government contracting journey. My name is Chelsea Roberts. I am the CEO of Collaborative Compositions. I am the co-author of a book called Hey GovCon, Get Help, and I am the host of the GovCon Unscripted podcast. Now, let's just get all on the same page with a couple of quick definitions. Other transactions and other transaction authority, or OTA and OT, you'll hear used interchangeably. The other transaction authority is a legally distinct contracting authority that is given to certain federal agencies that allows them to enter into agreements that are outside of the traditional federal acquisition regulation. Other transaction is the instrument that comes out of an other transaction authority agreement. So that is the other transaction while the authority is given to specific agencies. There's a distinction there. Now, non-traditional contractors is a term that you'll hear used throughout this discussion. It refers to companies that have not had a contract with full cost accounting standards over the past year. Prototype projects are transactions that are leveraged to develop, test, and evaluate new technologies, capabilities, and it can be anywhere from a piece of software, a hardware, a process, or just about anything else that you can think of that might be considered novel or innovative for the government. A follow-on production other transaction is what is a non-competitively awarded award that is provided after the successful completion of a prototype project. And a consortium is a membership-based group of companies, nonprofits, academia, oftentimes that is focused around a specific mission area, and that is typically a primary vehicle where you'll see other transaction opportunities come out. Now, let's dig just a little bit deeper into this. What is an other transaction? It is, again, something that falls outside of the traditional FAR-based contracting structure. It was created in around the 1950s to allow NASA and other agencies in this day and age to enter into more collaborative relationships with companies that they're working with. Things that come out of these are research, prototype development, and oftentimes production. And you'll often hear other transactions referred to as things referred to by what they are not, which is they are not a government contract in the traditional FAR sense. They are not a grant and they are not a cooperative agreement. They are based in 10 USC 4021. And again, I'm not going to go deep into the policy or the legal on this presentation, but that's the area that you can look within the USC. Now, certain agencies use them. Not all agencies have the authority to issue other transactions. Most of them include the Department of War, DHS, DOT, HHS, and there's others with pilots going on right now for that authority. They are often used for things that are high priority or time-bound and where there's a distinct need to get whatever's being provided into the hands of the warfighters or into the hands of the government customer faster. There are 3 types of other transactions. Those include research OTs for early stage, basic, applied, and advanced research. Prototype other transactions, which are for testing new concepts, systems, and capabilities and getting those systems into the hands of the government customer faster. And follow-on production other transactions. That includes things that are awarded after the successful completion of a prototype. And why do they matter to you? So chances are that you might be a non-traditional contractor, and that comes with some serious advantage. Being a non-traditional contractor allows you to perform on a other transaction without having any sort of cost share requirements. Now, traditional contractors, or those that have had a full cost accounting standards contract in the past year, if they don't have significant participation from a non-traditional contractor, are required to provide a third of the cost share of the project. That can be tens to hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases, so making sure you're aware of your non-traditional contracting status is kind of important. Oftentimes, other transactions are known for the speed at which they can be issued, awarded, and performed. Things on other transactions are oftentimes shorter form in the response requirements, requiring anything from a white paper to maybe an Excel spreadsheet with a couple of columns filled in. And the awards can happen in 3 to 6 months, even sometimes a little bit quicker. Traditional FAR-based contracts are going to take anywhere from 12, 18, even 24 months in some cases just to get awarded. Other transactions offer a lot in terms of flexibility. It allows you to negotiate basically all of the terms that you might think of being able to negotiate in a business relationship. That includes IP, pricing, milestones, etc. And it really lowers the barrier to entry because the access to these opportunities is not limited to those that have federal past performance. You can enter as a commercial company and join a consortium and be working and talking with your government customers in as little as 6 months in some cases. They ultimately offer quite a bit of dual use advantage, so they are suited for things like tech transfers, pilots, and rapid iteration with your government customers. They're great for first-time federal vendors because they don't require that federal past performance to be able to participate. They're great for companies that are developing new technology solutions or dual-use technologies that are commercial, that have some federal applicability because it makes it easier for the government to be able to procure them. And it gives you the opportunity to engage with other companies via a consortium that may be similarly related, similarly situated, and have some synergistic features to what you're doing. So it can give you the opportunity to find partners, teammates, or potentially subcontractors in some cases. Now, it is a distinct advantage to the government because it allows them to procure things a little bit quicker outside of the traditional acquisition process, and it brings fresh talent and agility into the conversation. So you can provide your solutions to the government in a much shorter time frame, have them evaluated, get feedback, and iterate a whole lot faster than what you can in a traditional FAR-based construct. Now, leveraging them is probably easier than you think. You can join practical on-ramps like other transaction consortia, and many of the other transaction opportunities that you hear about are released on consortia-based portals. The companies that run consortium are known as consortium management firms. Those include things like NSTXL, MTech, SOSEC, ATI, others. And it allows ultimately companies that have never worked with the government or are considered non-traditional to be able to work with the government customer quite a bit faster and in a more flexible way. There's an opportunity to take technologies from development in other transactions into full-scale production and implementation across the force. So once you've been successful with the prototype other transaction, a follow-on production award can be awarded, and then you can move into full-scale implementation across your government customer base. It gives you the opportunity to stay engaged with your government customer and allows you to attend specific opportunity-based industry days and other transaction curated events, which oftentimes the consortium management firms are great at putting on. There are many opportunities for non-traditional contractors to provide a significant advantage to those traditional contractors on other transactions, as they can enable them to save quite a bit of money in that third of the cost share. So making sure that you're aware of your non-traditional status and making sure that you're engaging with the partners and members of the consortium early on can help start those conversations and keep them going throughout the opportunity lifecycle. I also encourage folks to engage early with their agency customers to make sure that they're able to shape prototype project requests, because there's no limitation like there is in traditional FAR-based contracting for communication with the government. Now, there are a couple of things to know to be successful within this other transaction landscape. One of them is that the rules are changing, and not insignificantly. There are some policies that are being codified, and ultimately the policies are aiming to require more documentation and a little bit more reporting, as reporting on OTs has traditionally been very lackluster or not involved. So there's a desire to have a little bit more and better reporting and a little bit more regulation. That doesn't mean that they are becoming inflexible. They are still a fantastic, flexible, agile acquisition method to leverage. Companies need to make sure that their capabilities are really aligned with urgent priorities within their government customer base. And you can do that by talking to your government customer throughout the process. I encourage companies to not lead with a production ask and ultimately to start out by doing a pilot or a test or a demonstration. That gives you the opportunity to demonstrate, iterate, and adapt the design of whatever you're doing to be able to meet your government customers' needs just a little bit better. And ultimately, make sure that you aren't holding yourself back with your current company-based processes for pursuing traditional FAR-based contracts. OTAs really do favor those companies that can move fast, that can communicate, and that can solve problems directly. And oftentimes this is reflected in the type of acquisition or opportunity requests that you'll see come out in consortium. You might see anything from a couple of cells in an Excel spreadsheet to respond, or a 5-page white paper, or maybe 10 pages, but typically it's a little less. So the burden of putting together proposals or responses on other transactions is significantly lower than what you'll find in FAR-based contracting. These things do not come out on SAM.gov, so you will find them in other transaction consortia primarily. There is also the opportunity to pursue direct award other transactions in which the government can award you a other transaction directly. It ultimately comes down to being able to respond effectively to the government's requirement that they release in that environment. There are typically some eligibility requirements. You might need to have a JCP or a joint certification program to join a consortium, but making sure that you've got all of that out of the way before you join will make the process a little bit smoother and a little bit easier for you. Now, I encourage folks not, again, to try to fit other transactions into the traditional FAR framework or their typical strategy for pursuing FAR contracts, because they are very different and they have different requirements across the board. You can do yourself a favor if you don't overlook teaming and having the conversations early on with potential partners, because you can ultimately share quite a bit of value by being a non-traditional company and working with some of the traditional contractors through another transaction. Now, after all of this information, which I'm sure has been a bit of a fire hose, I've got a couple of things for you to go ahead and do. There's a little bit of homework here. OTs are here to stay. They're gaining popularity and they're expanding in use. The federal government has encouraged agencies to leverage them more heavily for research and development and prototype projects. So you will find them becoming a little bit more popular and probably being used a little bit more heavily by most government customers. They are a high impact way for companies in all sorts of underserved communities to be able to get into federal work and to win federal work. They ultimately are a supplement and they should not replace your traditional FAR contracting strategies. They should be in addition to whatever you're doing on the FAR basis. And I suggest everybody take a couple of steps. Join a relevant consortium and track the solicitations or the requests that are coming out via those consortiums. Ask your government customers if there's an appetite for other transactions. Ask if you can take an other transaction path for a requirement to be met. And go ahead and take an opportunity to visit the link in the next slide and find 2 to 3 consortiums that align with your capabilities. You can identify current or upcoming prototype needs from a couple of different agencies and consider whether partnerships are going to be valuable for being able to get non-traditional contracting status if you're a traditional prime, or ultimately you can find teammates that can help you fill out a really robust solution to a requirement. I always am going to suggest that everybody here take the opportunity to start integrating OTA capture processes into your business development strategy right now from the start. That'll save you a lot of time, pain, and effort down the road by trying to fit traditional contracting approaches into an OT strategy. Be ready to reply to things that are short form, have your white papers and capabilities briefings available, and make sure that you're ready to respond on a quick notice. You might find things have about a 2-week response time, or sometimes even less, sometimes a little bit more. But ultimately, the response requirements for other transactions are usually a lot lower, and there's a lot fewer barriers to entry into the federal marketplace by leveraging other transactions. I encourage everybody to, again, reach out, use the links in the next slide, and I am more than happy to provide any answers to questions, resources, or support that I can along your journey. If you have any questions about other transactions or other non-traditional acquisition pathways, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, my contact information will be on the last slide. And again, these helpful sites, the first is the link to the existing Other Transaction Consortium that you can use to find groups that align with your capabilities and with your mission needs and priorities. You can use the Defense Acquisition Guidebook to educate yourself a little bit further. You can find the comparison between other transactions and FAR-based contracts at the third link, and the final link is the link to the Federal Register, where you can find all of the policy relating to other transactions. Thanks again for joining me today, everybody. I know that was a very quick overview of other transactions, but I want to make sure that everybody has the information that they need to feel empowered going forward. So please, again, don't hesitate to reach out. My name is Chelsea Roberts, and I'm pleased to be presenting today.